Well, for more, we can speak to journalist Richard Verley. He works for the Swiss daily Blick. He joins us from West Palm Beach, Florida. Hello to you, Richard. Before we begin, you're a French journalist. You're in a swing state. You've been visiting swing states. How do you think the rest of the world is looking at this U.S. election? What are the stakes?
Well, the stakes are very important. When you listen especially to Donald Trump, he's saying and repeating that the moment he will be elected, because he doesn't have any doubt of the fact he's going to be elected, he will immediately go to Vladimir Putin. He will certainly reassert his total support for Benjamin Netanyahu in Israel. So the stakes are very high. And I would say they are probably higher in the case of an election of Donald Trump rather than Kamala Harris, because Kamala Harris, one way or another, will have to follow what Joe Biden did. Her administration, though she says it will be different, it cannot be that different than Donald Trump. He clearly wants to do something else. So the rest of the world, especially his European allies, they have to watch and be careful.
Yeah, and in these final days, we're getting an idea of what each candidate thinks as the most necessary swing states to campaign in. Donald Trump focusing resources in North Carolina, Kamala Harris in Michigan. What does each candidate have to do to try to change something more in their favor?
Well, I would say you've got two ways of seeing the swing state. The global way, all the 7 states, and the specific way for each state. If you take the global way, Donald Trump, he has already rallied his old supporters. All the Trumpists of this country, the United States, will go to vote or have already voted. It's a bit different from Kamala Harris. She needs to rally more votes, especially in the black community and among moderate Republicans women. So she still has a finish line, while all pollsters believe that for Trump, it is done in terms of rallying the vote. Now, if you look at the specific state, the battle is in Pennsylvania. Clearly, whoever wins Pennsylvania will have a clear lead in the election. It's 19 votes at the Electoral College. It's the big population. It's a big city, Philadelphia. So the battle, I would say, first battle in Pennsylvania, second battle probably in Michigan and Georgia. So those are the 3 states we have to watch. The 4 others, it can vary, but they don't have that importance, electoral importance of Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Georgia.
One of the common Republican criticisms of the Democratic Party is that it's now a party of elites. In recent campaign events, we've seen Kamala Harris being endorsed by a number of celebrities. Does that play over with the common man or woman that casts the ballots?
It does play a role, and that is what Trump is saying. Behind me, I have the American television with this channel, which is a very Trumpist channel, and they keep showing all these moderators or so-called journalists saying that Kamala is associated with the elite, she is associated with Hollywood, she comes from California. In short, she is not American. That is the message that the Trump campaign is spreading. Kamala Harris is not a candidate to defend America. And it's working among that electorate. Now you have to realize that Kamala Harris has also a huge crowd of voters, people who refuse Trump. And the big question mark is the women. Are they going to vote for Kamala Harris because they are afraid of their rights? They want to defend their rights. And I am told by a political science professor in Michigan that there might be a hidden vote of American women who refuse to say publicly that they will vote for Harris, though they will do it on the 5th of November.
And these swing states are so crucial because of America's electoral college system, something that's very difficult for people who are not American to understand. But essentially, the idea is that candidates will have to campaign in certain states that might not have the biggest population, but they have a disproportionately high number of electoral votes. From your perspective as a European covering this election, is that an outmoded system, or is it something that is vital to U.S. democracy?
It is an outmoded system, but it is a system that people don't want to change. I mean, even in the Kamala Harris electorate, and I met many Harris fans. I went to a meeting of Tim Walz, the running mate for Kamala Harris. They don't want to change the system, and they know it won't be possible. This country is completely fractured. It is divided into 2. So you clearly cannot change a system like the Electoral College. Now, what is interesting is what Trump is saying. He wants to win the popular vote as well, because he knows that if he wins only by a small margin at the Electoral College, while Kamala Harris would win the popular vote like Hillary Clinton did with 3 million votes, it will be very difficult for him to pretend he represents America. So there is clearly a challenge by winning the popular vote and the Electoral College.
Two things on that as well, though. One, we might not have the results for several days after the election. And two, many people are preparing for a number of legal challenges, aren't they?
Especially in the Trump camp. I mean, look at what Donald Trump is saying. He's been saying for weeks. He thinks that there is cheating going on. He thinks that the result will not be correct. And he thinks he can only win. Now, if you look at what's going on, I was in Georgia, in Savannah, and people told me and showed me that the American electoral system has way improved since 2020. So in all those states, American electorate officials are working very hard to make the system absolutely efficient and credible. Each voter receives a barcode so you can track your vote until the end. So it will be more difficult for Trump, if he is defeated, to contest those results. Keep in mind also that he is not in power. He was in power in 2020 when he contested the vote. Now it's Joe Biden in the White House.
Yeah, plus, we have this record number of mail-in ballots this year. It remains to be seen if that still leans heavily towards Democrats or if the Republicans have participated more than they did back in 2020. Richard, I don't want to put you in the hot seat, but I will. Not your own political leanings, but what do you think? How do you think this election is going to go? Is it going to be Trump or Harris that comes out on top?
Well, based on my trip, I traveled from Chicago in the in the Midwest to Mar-a-Lago, altogether 4,000 kilometers with an RV, a motorhome. So I could meet, I would say, real American in the campground, in the small cities and so on. I would say the dynamic of the campaign, of the last days of the campaign, is more for Trump. He has dominated those last days of the campaign with his huge rally, and he has made the buzz. But Kamala Harris has a very efficient campaign on the ground. That's what I am told and what I have seen. Now, the situation, he's got all his voters to move and to vote for him. She has some reserve. She can get more voters than him, but they have to go vote, or they have already voted, maybe, because around 60 million Americans have already voted. So that is the question. Can Kamala Harris dig into the reserve of votes she has or not? And especially turning again to those two targets, Black American men who are quite reluctant to vote for her, a former prosecutor who was very harsh on American black male community, and the moderate woman Republican who may not say who they are going to vote for, but may be afraid of their rights, and especially regarding abortion. So I would say Kamala Harris stands still a chance, but she's got a more difficult job in the coming hours than Donald Trump.
Yeah, coming hours, about just under 48 hours left before that election gets underway. Richard, thank you. It was a pleasure. Richard Verley joining us from West Palm Beach. Thank you.